Hey, hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. My name is Autumn Ashley, and today I want to talk about all of the plotting progress I have made with this new fantasy story. So currently I am working on two projects. The first project, which is the one we will not be talking about today, is also a fantasy story. I call it Project Burning Roses, and I am currently writing the first draft of that story. Now, the second story, which is the one that I will be talking about today, I am in the plotting stage of that story. It is also a fantasy story, and I am calling that story Project Ice. Project Burning Roses is my primary project, and Project Ice is going to be my secondary project. It's the project that I'm working on if I don't necessarily want to be drafting, but I still want to be creative. I can go ahead and pull this project out, work a little bit through some ideas that I have, work on some of the characters, discover a little bit more about the world. It's just more of a chill project that I am starting to work on. So there were a few days in August that I took some time out of my day to actually work on this project. I'm gonna flash up on the screen exactly the days and the times that I was working on this story, just to show you guys the progress that I've made with just a little bit of time that I've spent working on this project. And already it has been super rewarding. So I do want to share with you guys my entire outline that I have so far. When I do show all of that, just keep in mind that how I've created my outline, I have pulled it from other resources. So like writing craft books and from YouTube videos. I'm going to leave everybody linked in the description box below. So if you are curious about where I'm pulling this information from, everybody's going to be linked in the description box below. I do want to talk about the writing craft books. I will talk about the YouTube videos that I have been using as references as well. I will get a little bit deeper once we get to the screen and I show you guys what exactly I've been working on. The two main writing craft books that I have been using so far with this story is Story Genius by Lisa Cron and Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. I have read both of these at least once and certain sections a few times. I do have like some highlighted parts in here, key scenes, and I have or key things that I want to include in the story or refer back to, and I have little tabs across the top. Same with Story Genius. Save the Cat is great for what I've been trying to do with plotting out the entire story or thinking about the key plot points or the beats that are happening in the story. I am using this more for story structure. There is a section in here that talks about who my hero is. I've been using Story Genius to create more of a backstory for my main character. I do feel like both of these two books go really great together. And then here is a notebook, but obviously. In this notebook, I have all of my notes from Brandon Sanderson's writing lectures. So Brandon Sanderson is an amazing source. He has a YouTube channel and he has all of these free writing lectures online for us to use. So I have watched all of his lectures at least once. Periodically, I will go back and then rewatch them. Here, I have all of the notes that I have taken from his lectures. The one last person I want to mention, she has an AuthorTube channel. Her name is Katytastic. She has an outlining method that she calls the 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter structure. I very loosely use this outlining method, so I'm going to also leave her linked in the description box below because she does have videos where she does talk about this process. If you're curious as to what it is and how it works, I will leave her channel link down below, and she has great resources and great videos talking about this outlining method. Just keep all of that in mind when I do show you all of the progress and all of the work that I've done. I have used these as the resources and then have maybe tweaked things or shifted it to match my writing style or how my brain works. Before we jump over to the screen and I start talking a little bit more in depth with the story, I do want to give just a brief overview of what the story is. I did mention this in one of my previous videos, but in case you didn't watch that or we don't remember because it's been a hot minute, I will give you a brief overview of what the story is. So it's a fantasy story that is set in some different world somewhere at some time. In this world, there is this girl who is our main character. She and 6 other people are taken in by the castle and they are eventually walked up to the secret part of the mountain in this world and they are sacrificed to the gods. However, 5 years after this event has happened, our main character is the only girl that somehow survived this sacrifice. And she does end up walking back down from the mountain to the kingdom that sacrificed her and she has a message from the gods. So that's pretty much all I had in my previous video about this story. So I want to show you guys how I've been trying to dive a little bit deeper in the story, since what I just shared pretty much happens at the beginning of the story. So how did all of this happen over time? What all is going on? More about my main character. And there's also something, when I was reviewing my notes before this, I did notice in there that my timeline is a little bit off. There's a little bit in here where I mentioned that it all happens in a single season, but then like I literally just said that it happens over 5 years. That's something that I'm currently working on too, is trying to get the timeline just right. So if I do end up sharing that part of my outline, just keep in mind that it's still a very new idea. And so bouncing back and forth between timelines or when things are going to happen is at least normal in my process. Before I share my screen and I show you guys what my document looks like, I use Google Docs in one of Brandon Sanderson's lectures. I think it was the first lecture towards the end. Yes. And so in one of Brandon Sanderson's lectures, he talked about how he does his outlining. And it's actually been a hot minute since I've watched him talk about his outlining. So just based off of my notes and from what I remember, he does a heading for his characters, a heading for his setting, and a heading for his plot. When I share my video, I do have headings for that stuff, but I also have additional information. I have everything in one Google Doc. In the past, I have had multiple documents, like one for my characters, one for the setting, one for ideas. But with this story, how I'm doing it differently is I just have everything all in one document. And so far, for me, it's been very helpful. It's been great just to have it all in one place so I can just bebop around from different titles or the different headings, and it's all in one document. The only thing that is in a different document is that 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter structure outline that I did mention previously. And I have that separate just because when I show it to you guys, it'll make sense. It's its own like chart. It's just easier to have that in a separate document. But everything else with this story is in one document. We're just gonna go straight down the list and I'm going to just talk about all of the things. And there are going to be some parts that I will block out just so I'm not sharing absolutely everything with this story. You know, there's still some mystery behind this story. Now I'm going to share my screen with you guys. I am just going to walk you through everything. So far, what I've done with this outline, I have all of the headers that are going down. I have the story ideas, which are kind of like the original ideas that I've had for the story, a summary, the blurb, a little bit of an intro, all of the ideas. If I've had mini scenes that have just kind of popped up into my head as I've been outlining, I've just been jotting those down. Who is my hero? I will go in more into depth in this in a second. What the plot is, what the setting is, any world building and characters, writing out ideas, which are additional ideas. This is going to be where all of my research is done. This is that 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter structure outline that Katytastic shares on her YouTube channel. Again, she's linked in the description box below with how she goes into depth with what all this is. I use this, but I don't use it like religiously. It's the only thing I use. I use a lot of other methods to at least outline and plot this story. So I want to go down the list here and talk about what I have in each of these sections. Just keep in mind with this story, I'm still plotting it. I've only worked on it, what, 5 days out of a month for 4 to 6 hours or something like that. It's still a very, very rough new idea. So I do have a little bit of the storyline, and I do have that here where a girl returns from the mountains. She was sacrificed to many years after she was supposed to die. However, her homeland is now attacked by an enemy. Bits and pieces of ideas that I'm trying to connect. I do have another character here. This could potentially be like another storyline that is going to overlap with my main character. I did toss that in here as well. I have title ideas. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. But just to keep it simple with us right now, this story is called Project Ice. The summary. So this is just kind of a brain dump of a summary of the entire story, but I am still working on this idea and on this summary. So it's still pretty messy. Again, it's just me trying to plot out the story and just try to give myself a summary of what the story is. And in my blurb section, I have this part where I wrote something and then instead of just deleting it because I no longer liked it, I just strike through'd it. I did the little strike through thing and I came up with a different blurb. I have this as my blurb, but this is the blurb that I have for myself right now. In the past, with my other 3 projects, I've never created a blurb up front. I feel like that's a mistake for me because with those other 3 stories, as the story has grown and shaped itself, I almost feel like it has lost a little bit of that original idea that I had that I did want in the story. I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen with this story. This blurb is very new, it's very rough. I am actually going to share it with you guys because why not? Why not embarrass myself on the internet and show you guys a little bit of my writing? It's still a very new, very rough, unedited, uncut blurb. It's not going to be what's on the back of the book because what's going to be on the back of the book is going to be 100 times better than the shit that I'm about to show you. I feel like it'll be fun when I'm finally finished with this story after how many years it's going to take me to write it. If I ever do end up publishing this story, we will have, you know, a little bit to look back on and to see how far the story came. So I'm going to flash it up on the screen. Okay, have fun, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. So I guess I'll just read it out loud. Oh, maybe I should have made this a little bit bigger. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Maybe I should make it a little bit bigger. Okay. This is what I have crossed out because we weren't gonna go down that road. We could potentially return back to that blurb that I had, and then I'll just unstrike through it and then strike through the other one. This is what I have so far for the blurb. It's entirely too long, but I don't really care right now. A determined animal trainer, a cursed queen, a twist in time, and a kingdom on the losing side of war. Damaris, the daughter of an animal trainer, is on the verge of losing everything. When her father mysteriously stops sending letters and money, she sets out on her own to find him. For the first time, she is completely alone as she heads into town. Her search for her father is weighing heavy on her shoulders, and the need to help her younger siblings survive is fading away. When in town, she hears the town crier announcing work in the castle for payments of money and supplies for the upcoming winter. Knowing her siblings will not survive without this offer, Damaris heads to the castle in search of work. Soon she finds herself at the mercy of the queen and their cruel plan to gain the gods' favor for the upper hand in the raging war, to sacrifice 7 souls at the beginning of summer. Damaris' last thoughts are of her starving family as she is chained and brought to the top of the mountain she is sacrificed from. That's a very rough blurb, but I feel like I can work with something there. So that's how I'm thinking the story is gonna go, and all of like that whole sacrifice thing and all of that happens at the very beginning of the story. So there's no spoiler-y stuff in that. So this next one I'm going to gloss over. It's the intro, and it was the original idea that I've had to start the story. It is her like coming down from the mountain with information from the gods. In this section that I have all ideas, this is where I dump all of my ideas. Like all of my brainstorming when I sit down to work on this story, this is where all of the ideas come from. I'll share just a few things as I'm brainstorming out this story, how I'm trying to get it all to be connected. I have a few more ideas, actually have a lot of ideas so far for this story, and trying to come up with reasons why there's a certain number of sacrifices that are being brought. Like why is this specific number like 7 or whatever? So I am coming up with things like that, trying to brainstorm if I decided to have a love story in there, who the characters would be, what kind of love story would it be, or if there would not be a love story. If you know anything, my mug matches my shirt. That's hilarious. So if any of you guys know me and my writing, you would know that I'm not a big having romance as a plot or a subplot, just because I don't do good with writing it. So I don't feel like I do my best with portraying it, which I guess would be all the more reason to have that in there so I can fine tune that craft. But anyways, so I do want to say that some of these bullet points will have other little bullet points underneath. They're mainly to keep in mind that the things that I've mentioned, so like in this really, really long bullet point that I have 2 bullet points underneath, and then those little bullet points have bullet points underneath. It's just things to keep in mind for myself, and then I am kind of just still brainstorming off of that idea. When they're little bullet points like this, that's when they're almost more of a new idea and it's not feeding off of one original idea. So like this could have been the original idea, but then I dive a little bit deeper into what that surface idea could be. That is everything that is in all of the ideas category. Then the next one are mini scenes. So this was the one that I was talking about, that if I'm brainstorming or whatever and like a whole scene just kind of pops out into my head, I will type it out just a little bit, use a little bit of bullet points, or if I have some dialogue that I want to possibly include in the story, I will write that down. Now this one right here, this is what I was talking about with who is my hero, this heading, this title, all of the stuff that's under this category, I pulled from Save the Cat, I think a little bit from Story Genius, and from my notes from Brandon Sanderson. So I'm not claiming any of this to be my own. Now that we have that out of the way, I retyped all of this up to put it into my document. And the reason I retyped it all up is because I'm one of those people where if I retype something or if I rewrite it, I have a better chance of remembering my 3 essential things that my main character should have, and then going into what kind of problems is my hero facing. In Save the Cat, it had talked about like what is the problem in the story, but then have that manifest to all parts of my main character's life. I haven't yet answered that question because I'm still trying to brainstorm who exactly my main character is. Who is that person going to be? Who is the best person that is going to be able to tell this story? So the next one, we have plot. I pulled this information from Brandon Sanderson's lectures. If you are interested in any of this, you definitely need to watch his videos. Clearly, I don't have a whole lot on the plot quite yet. I'm still just trying to think about everything, trying to info dump all of my ideas, and then seeing what ideas can be linked together. Brandon Sanderson talks about the promises, your tone promise, the character art, and then the plot promise. He has 2 little points underneath it, which is your umbrella plot. So what we see, what is that core plot? So here I actually have a core plot of romance, interesting, and family ties, which are very important to me. What are the payoffs? And so Brandon Sanderson, he talks about payoffs. If you're curious as to what he means when he talks about payoffs, you're gonna have to go watch his videos. For setting, I do know I want it to be completely different from my other story. Project Burning Roses, which is not this story because this is Project Ice. Project Burning Roses takes place in swampy, tropically, islandy type area, versus this story is going to be taking place on like snowy, icy, mountainous areas, which I have no relation to because I've never seen more than like 3 inches of snow. So that's gonna be fun research. Also here, what kind of magic, curses, gifts, or technology do these people have? And I do think I had pulled those things. Yeah, I pulled those things from Brandon Sanderson's lectures, but I haven't expanded on any of them. That's pretty much all I'm gonna say about that. And then I don't have much for world building. So in the past, I have done world building. For this story, I haven't quite decided if I want to do world building or if I want to let myself write the first draft and then discovery write all of the world building stuff. I don't know which I want to do. And the reason I'm on the fence about this is because in the past with my other 3 stories, when I've done the world building, I feel like I've almost written myself into a box where I feel like I think about the limitations, I think about what my characters can and can't do, versus letting myself be creative in the world building. I'm still on the fence about the whole world building thing. And as you can see, I have no world building done yet. Okay, so then the next one are my characters. This is a very long character list. My idea of this character list is to have all of the characters listed here. I have all of the people, a love interest. As you can see, there's a little question mark because I don't know, or I don't know if the love interest is going to be one of the other characters that I've listed. And then this one, I have the volunteer girl, and she was potentially going to be my main character. And who knows, I might bounce back to her because she might have a better story to tell. With my volunteer girl, I love that, that's really funny. She is going to be a volunteer for the sacrifice, and she might end up being more of a side character. I'm not quite sure. I was brainstorming and I threw her in there. Moving on from my characters, I have writing out the ideas. In this section, I'm more expanding on some of those bullet points, but then I'm also trying to, like right here, trying to figure out what the problem, the want, and the need is for my main character. So I have all of this here, what the problem could potentially be, what her want is, and then her possible needs. I have a lot of things that I'm trying to work through right now where it's all probably very surface ideas. And then the last one that we have is research. These are books that I want to be similar to my story, and I haven't really given it too much thought. A possibility of time travel and doing a little bit of research on that. Time elements, not quite sure what I meant by that, but I probably wrote this at like 3 o'clock in the morning. The sacrifice, I have done a little bit of no, I've not done sacrificing, but I've done a little bit of research on like sacrifices and sacrifices in history. And I feel like it's important to research that kind of stuff to understand the reasons why people in history did sacrifices and what kind of sacrifice am I going to have in my story. I will be honest, it's not the most fun and exciting and happy stuff to research. I've been doing that in bits and pieces because it's a little depressing. The last one that I want to talk to you guys about is that 3-act, 9-block, 27 chapter structure outline. For my project, what I've been doing is using Katytastic's 3-9-27 outlining method. This is where the 3 acts and then the 9 blocks, which these more look like rectangles, but that's fine. And then those are your 9 chapters for each of the 3 acts. It's a total of 27 chapters. I said I wasn't going to go into like the pros and cons that I think are for this outlining method because I still think it's great and I will always support it because it helped me write my first story. But since my story is fantasy, it's going to be more than 27 chapters. Pacing wise, the second act should be a lot more chunkier. It should be like the chunkiest part of the entire story. And what I do really love about this outlining method, and pretty much any outlining method, is, you know, you can pick and choose the things that you want to use. This is just a great visual because when I am thinking about my ideas for this story, I will look at this outlining method and be like, okay, well, what would be something, a fun and games type thing that could happen once she gets to her new world? Or what is the midpoint of the story? I like having this outlining method in addition to the writing craft books and pulling from other sources because it helps me see the story as a whole. That's all I have for the outline that I wanted to share with you guys and the progress. This is what I've been working on with the story, and I haven't been vlogging much of that because I've literally just been staring at the screen like this for hours. I mean, that's not really interesting. And I wanted to have enough footage where I could sit and talk to you guys about how I've been actually outlining this story and how the outlining has been going. That's another great question, is how has the outline been going? I would say that it's been slow. It's been productive. I feel really good about this. I see the potential that the story has. I think I just need to keep going and I just need to be a little more consistent if we're being honest around here, folks. I've been having a lot of fun outlining this story. I feel like this story, once I finally get to the drafting stage, actually writing the first draft, I feel like this story is going to be a lot stronger than the stories that I've written in the past. But using my old stories and the processes that I've used for my old stories has brought me to this point that I am at today. So I don't feel any regrets, or I don't feel like, oh, I should have done this for this story, it would have been better. All of the experiences that I have with my writing has been worth it, and it's brought me to this point. So I'm just going to continue to learn and to grow with this story and take all of those experiences that I've already had to shape this story and to shape this outline. So do remember that everybody that I have mentioned, all of the writing craft books, Brandon Sanderson's writing lectures, and Katytastic's channel, everybody is going to be linked in the description box below. That's what I have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me talk about all of the progress that I've made with plotting this story and outlining it. Let me know how you plot, if you do plot, if you've ever heard of any of the sources that I've talked about in this video, let me know, or let me know if you use them in your writing. But that's gonna be it for this video, you guys. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're not subscribed and you want to be part of my writing journey, go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.